Now the person who knows how to write, I mean, he receives an education not with the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't learn to write from the Prophet ﷺ, because the Prophet himself does not know how to write. So he got his education, the writer got his education from some other source. And I would argue an un-Islamic source, a secular source. Didn't he? And without that writer, you would not be able to fulfill this ayah. Because the ayah requires a writer. And this writer got his secular education elsewhere. But this writer says, I don't want to write it down for you, I'm busy. But Medina is not it's not filled with writers, people who are able to write. So the few people who can write, now you've heard the concept of jury duty, right? When you're called into court as a responsibility of your citizenship. Well, the few people who were capable of writing were now called upon to say, if there is a business transaction and you are being asked to write, then you shouldn't refuse. You should come and write it down, because it's your civic duty to help the people who want to make business transactions because they're not capable of doing it. Right? So Allah says, وَلَا يَأْبَ كَاتِبٌ. No writer should refuse. أَنْ يَكْتُبَ, to write things down. Now this is the part that really gets me. كَمَا عَلَّمَهُ اللَّهُ فَلْيَكْتُبْ. No writer should refuse writing things down, just as Allah had taught him. So he should write it down. Wait, He didn't learn from the Prophet. He didn't learn from the angel Jibreel. He learned from some place how to write. Some other place. And what did he learn to write? Business contracts. Accounting, finance, isn't it? Which we today call a secular field, isn't it? And Allah's language is the way Allah taught him. كَمَا عَلَّمَهُ اللَّهُ. Now if you look at the word allama in the Quran, to teach, Allah says, وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ مَا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُم مَا لَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. Allah is teaching you, and Allah knows everything. Allah teaches you what you couldn't possibly have known yourselves. Allah says, عَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنِ. He taught the Quran. And now he says he taught the accountant how to write the language of accounting and finance and business transactions. He on the one hand talks about he taught revelation, and now he's talking about teaching business agreements. Why? Because Allah is now making all knowledge, all human knowledge, so long as it benefits society in some way, all of it is sacred to Allah. Knowledge itself is sacred to Allah, and He takes credit for it Himself.